Hello and welcome to this build of the OcCre Wagon. We'll be starting with part 1 today, which is shown here in the top right of the instructions. Grab a pencil and label each of the wooden pieces with a code. You'll find these codes at the back of the instructions and they'll come up throughout the build. Using the pencil makes it easier to erase them should they be written in places that end up visible. I want to do something a little different with the colours on the wagon that you can see in the picture here. Instead of sticking with the original scheme, I've been really drawn to the colours of the old Royal Mail train carriages. Now, I know there isn't a direct one-to-one match between the two styles, but after digging around a bit I found some amazing photos of these mobile post office carriages. So here's the plan. For the exterior I'm going to take the inspiration from the photos and go with the red walls, the black roof and the yellow stripes running along the sides. When looking at the interior, I often think that it's the little details that bring the models to life. With that in mind, I'll be recreating the mailbags and adding little sorting holes. I'm also thinking about putting some lights onto the ceiling. However, bringing it back to the here and now, we need a sharp knife to carefully cut through the wooden tabs that are holding the piece in place. Once the piece is cut out, we'll need a small file to smooth out the edges. As the wood is laser cut, giving it a light sand will allow the glue and the paint to stick better to the wood. Now, in real life, flooring is rarely made from one long continuous plank, so to keep things realistic, I'm going to break these down into individual 3-inch planks. I'm using 3 inches because my cutting mat has 1-inch grid lines on them, which makes it a bit easier for me to make the marks on the plank. Once they're all cut, take a moment to file the ends of each plank. This helps them square off nicely so they fit together when we start laying them onto the base shortly. When it comes to working with wood, there are loads of glue options out there, but for this next step I'll be using traditional wood glue. My go-to is Gorilla Wood Glue, and you'll find a link for that, along with all of the other tools I've used in this video, down in the comments. I do want to say a massive thank you to anyone who uses those links. It really does help to support the channel and keeps projects like this one going. To apply the glue, I'm using a small paintbrush, then pressing the plank firmly down onto the base. Now, returning to the instructions that are showing you right at the start of this video, you may have noticed that it suggests that using a spare plank to create a uniform gap between each of the forward planks. Personally, I found that the spacing was a little too wide and it felt out of proportion for the scale of this model, so I decided to skip this step. Instead, I've decided to push the planks of wood gently against each other. I think this looks okay. I am going to use a full plank to gently push against the edges of the planks that I've already laid down. This will help keep everything nice and straight as I go along, and so I'll have some nice straight lines across the base. It's important to keep the tabs clear as they'll be needed later on in the build. As you can see, a few of my planks have gone onto the tabs, so later on I'll need to carefully trim those back, then give it a light sand to make sure everything fits together properly down the line. I'm going to give all of the planks a light coat of glue across the surface. I'll leave it to dry for a few hours, and once it's fully set, I'll trim off any of the excess planks that are overhanging the edges. Looking at it at this stage, I'm really pleased with how it's coming together. Using the smaller planks was definitely the right call, and it's added a lot of detail and realism to the build. Now it's time to give the whole thing a good sand. I'm using coarse grit, around 60, as I want to cut through the top layer of that glue. As this will be a working wagon, a few scratches and imperfections in the wood from the sanding are absolutely fine. Looking back at the old post office carriage photos, the floors were always nearly painted white, so that's what I'm going to be recreating in my next step. I'm actually hoping that some of the imperfections in the wood will soak up the paint unevenly and help give it that naturally worn look that we're trying to create. Happy where we're at so far? Thank you for watching, please like, comment and subscribe, and I look forward to welcoming you at the next step. Bye for now.